Welcome to the podcast, Badass Mother Hustler, where the grit, stress, and the beauty of motherhood and entrepreneurship meet. We'll share the realities and stories of what it takes to make it all work and still be a badass mother. Now here's your host, Maddie Yaka.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I'm so happy to have with me here today, Badass Mother Hustler, Amy Youngs. She is a mother to two, an almost 10-year-old and an almost 12-year-old. And she is a business mentor and mindset coach for entrepreneur moms. And her business is Amy Youngs Coaching. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It is a beautiful day out. It's hot and humid again, but that's all right. It's August. I can't believe it's August already.
I know. Same.
Crazy. So, can you tell everyone before we hop into everything a little bit about yourself and your family and what your hobbies are?
Sure, yeah. Let's see. So I, as you said, have two boys who are almost 10 and 12, and I've been growing my business, this version of my business for about 7 years now. I was a freelance writer in my 20s and did that as a side hustle for a while, and now I'm helping mom entrepreneurs grow their businesses. But I live in northern New York, in my hometown, and we moved here a little over 5 years ago. Not to like make things heavy right at the beginning, but my husband passed away, and we wanted to be closer to my family. So my boys and I stayed with my parents until we could get back on our feet. And now we're living in this tiny little town. Great place to, raise kids. And I have two cats and a dog, and we're just loving the summer right now.
Yeah, and all of that is part of your journey and part of building your business, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. But does entrepreneurship run in your family?
It does not. So I'm pretty sure I'm the first kind of person to really take entrepreneurship seriously. I know that a few people in my family have tried things like MLMs and things like that, but I think it's something that I knew early on. I didn't want to always be working for someone else, and I saw kind of the challenges that that created for my own mother, and I wanted to have the flexibility of growing a business on my own, of running my own business, being my own boss. And I think they still don't quite get it. Like, I still have family members who will send me job listings or like say things like, "Hey, are you looking for work? Like, what's going on?"
It's been 7
Um,
years and they're asking you if you are looking for work? Oh my goodness.
right? Like, how are things going? Are you really doing okay? Like, it's just those. I think it's just not common where I grew up to kind of do something on your own. It's more common to get the job, get the benefits, have the career, and retire. There's no real like. There are small businesses, but they're like not online businesses. They're more brick and mortar. It's the mom and pop shop or the coffee shop or the auto repair shop, but it's not working online. I think that's the thing that kind of trips people up.
That's what I was going to ask when you said it wasn't common. I didn't know if you meant like it wasn't seen as common in your family or if the community that you're in didn't see it as common, which yeah, there are just some people still, actually like a lot of people still that just don't think you can make a living strictly online.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's also a level of risk involved that um like, I'm Gen X, and more recent generations are much more willing to kind of take those risks, I think, than my parents' generation and the generations before them. And so as more people start to do that, to, step out on their own and try their own things, I think it's becoming more common. But even when I was freelance writing as like a side gig, people were like, "Oh, like you can make money doing that?" It's like, yes, you can.
Oh my goodness. So, before you started your coaching business and everything online, what was your job?
Yeah. Oh, this is an interesting journey. So I graduated from college with a psychology degree and a biology degree. I had meant to go to medical school and decided not to do that last minute. So I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I got into behavior psychology, working with kids with autism. And that led me to a job in Maryland, working at a children's hospital, which at the time I loved, but I could feel myself starting to burn out. It's really intense work. So I decided they offered benefits to get education. So I decided to go back to school and ended up getting my degree in professional writing. So my master's degree in professional writing.
How do you
And the
go
first
from what your first degrees are to writing?
it's pretty wild, but I'd always loved writing. And my senior year in my undergrad, I took an elective, which was like a short story writing class, I think. And I just loved it. And that was kind of the first hint for me that I wasn't quite sure I really wanted to go to medical school. So I decided to take that time off. And then when I had the opportunity to kind of get another degree, I thought, well, I really love writing. And if I can get paid to write without kind of the risk of, when you write fiction, you're writing kind of on spec. You don't know if you're going to get paid for it or not. I was like, maybe I can do that. So I got my master's degree in writing, and then almost immediately got a job as a technical writer. There were a lot of government contractors in the area and lots of technical writing jobs at the time. It was a pretty new field. So that was kind of a big shift from this like service based, um, working hands on with people to like kind of working in an office, just basically typing on the computer all day. And then from there, I mean, I had been freelance writing as well. So I was doing all that. But from there, I had my oldest and decided I just didn't want to do that commute anymore. I didn't want to be away from him for all that time. And so my husband and I figured out how to make it work with kind of a part time income coming from me. And then
Well, you said
the
on the
rest is
phone when we
history.
chatted that your commute was like an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, it was about 45 minutes to an hour one way. And I knew like I would end up having to put my son in daycare for almost 12 hours a day. And I didn't want to do it.
That's why I left teaching because I didn't want to put my first child in daycare starting at 6:45 in the morning and not pick her up until I mean, school ended at 3, but I still had to stay and do lesson plans
Yeah,
and things like that if I wanted to be present with her when I got home. So like what? I'm going to drop her off at 6:45 and pick her up at 5? Yeah,
right,
no, that's why I
right,
decided to
exactly.
leave my previous job. So I get that.
Yeah. Yeah, it just didn't feel like that was what I wanted to do. I knew eventually I would probably put him in daycare, part-time or something, but especially when I mean, I ended up having, I think, 10 weeks of leave, and then I took an additional, I think it was like 2 months, they allowed me to do remote work. So I was getting paid full time by my job, but they allowed me to kind of be at home with my son. And it was kind of during that time that I was like, if I can do this, why would I go back to the office and do that hour and a half to 2 hour commute a day and only really see him to put him to bed, basically? I didn't want to do that. So,
So, is that when that time working at home being paid was coming to an end, is that when you decided to stop doing that job and start your coaching business?
Well, I decided to stop doing that job and do freelance writing more consistently. So I started out just really focusing on my writing. I found a couple of contract jobs doing technical writing. I was doing some copywriting for small businesses and kind of through my network finding some writing jobs here and there. And then I mean, I can talk about the transition, but really it came down to like, I realized that there wasn't a lot of support for women who wanted to grow a business around their family. It was more single women or women without kids who are like hustling, trying to make that quick six figures. And that wasn't working for me. It wasn't going to work for me. So I realized I'm sure there are other moms out there who want to do it differently. So I'm going to figure out how to do it and then I'm going to teach them how to do it too.
What was that process like, just stepping out on a branch and starting something brand new?
Um, well, initially, initially it was scary. I mean, it was scary, right? Like, who am I to coach? I didn't see myself in that like framework. Um, and I was still freelance writing. Like that has never really left me. I've always kind of done jobs here and there. Um, So it was scary. It was scary to say, okay, now I'm gonna like put on this new identity, basically. I'm gonna tell people I can help them to change their lives. And I started kind of playing around with coaching in kind of more of a mindset, self care type format. Like I knew, okay, I've done this thing. I've decided I'm gonna come back to me as a human, not just a mom of two littles. And maybe I can help other moms to do that. So I started there, kind of dipping my toes in the coaching industry, kind of seeing how it would work. And then women started coming to me and say, I'm seeing you do this thing. Can you maybe show me how? Give me some tips. And that's where kind of the idea of, okay, maybe if I focus on mentoring other moms and showing them what I've done to manage my time and energy, to, grow my audience, to create content that really attracts people, all of those things that I teach my clients now, then maybe that's going to be my niche. Maybe that can be my focus.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of mindset and wellness coaches, and I just haven't seen a lot of coaches in your niche. And I just find that awesome and so interesting because there are a
Yeah.
lot of people trying to start their own businesses, and it's nice to have support or someone to guide you.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the real thing that I've seen, the real benefit is that I've been where they are, right? And I'm not trying to fit them in a box or make them do things in a particular way that I've seen work, right? Which is what a lot of business coaches tend to do. This is the strategy I use. I'm going to teach you to use it. Now you go use it. And when I would try to do that, I'd be like, okay, well, they want me to, create whatever 30 pieces of content a week and do a live launch every month and hold a webinar every couple of weekends. And I'm like, I can't do that. I've got two kids. I'm running a household and raising a family. That's not going to work for me. So knowing that kind of I know the season they're in and I can help them to figure out, okay, what's going to work for you? What are your priorities? What do you really want your life and your business to look like? And now that we know that, let's create a business that works for you in that way.
Yeah, trying to shove people in a box is such a bunch of BS. When my sister and I started in real estate 4 years ago, we went through 2 like new realtor boot camps, and in both of them, they were highly suggesting that you cold call your family and friends and have conversations with them and let them know that you're in real estate. And my sister, she's 6 years younger than me, so she's 28. So when we started, she was 24, and she's like, "If I called anyone from my phone, they would think that I was like in an accident or something. They would be wondering why I'm calling them." She's like, "This is so outdated. Why are they pushing
Yeah.
this?"
Yeah, and that type of, I mean, I call it bro marketing, but it's really like it's just so inauthentic
Yes.
and manipulative almost. It's like, first of all, I get it. Like, we want to tap into our network. I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, but there's a way we can do it that doesn't feel so full of pressure and like,
Or salesy
and yeah,
or
yeah,
fake,
just it
like you
feels
said, like
icky. Nobody wants to
inauthentic.
feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are some struggles that you have overcome while building your business?
Whew, I mean, where should I start?
I slapped you with that
I
one.
Right, yeah, I mean, I feel like, in the beginning, the struggles were different, right? But I feel like one of the things that I really help my clients with, because it was the thing that made the difference for me, was shifting my belief system, right? Like shifting my mindset. And that's why I do focus on mindset a lot with my clients, not just the business side, but like if you don't believe that as a mom of two young kids, you can grow a business, you're not going to grow a business, right? You're not going to take the actions, you're not going to do the things. And so I think the biggest struggle was shifting from this perspective of I can't, I don't have enough time, there's not enough, there's never going to be enough. This isn't the season, like shifting from that to every step I take toward a goal is going to get me closer. Why not start now, right? So I think really that mindset work, like that was a lot of the effort that I took early on in my business. And
What
that's
were
not easy work to do, right? It's like it doesn't always feel good. It's not fun. It's something you have to keep doing over and over again for the rest of your life if you want to keep growing and stretching yourself. And um I think that was a big one. And the other thing is, you know, the boundaries that we have to create in order to really have both, right?
Yep.
Can be challenging. Early on, I mean, I was every minute that I could, I was on my phone or on my laptop, and that was creating stress in my family, and it was making me feel guilty and icky because I wasn't present with, my husband or my kids, and it was, when I was present with them, I was feeling guilty about not doing the work that I could be doing during that time, and so, I think really figuring out how can I be present here where I need to be present now, and then close the door on that, close the laptop, put the phone away, and be present here with my family now, and just drop kind of the guilt and the feeling of overwhelm and constantly trying to be doing all of the things all of the time, all at the same time, because that's not going to work.
what you just described is exactly what I was feeling in like 2023, and I this year, specifically in the past few months, have really put up the boundaries and been like, whatever, I'm not going to feel bad that I'm not doing stuff for my business when I'm spending time with my family, because I think as entrepreneurs it's just so hard to turn it off. Like, it's not a
Yeah,
9 to 5 where you're like, these are my dedicated hours, and when I come home from work, like, now it's family time and the weekends are family time. It's
right.
just, as entrepreneurs, we are learning a different way of trying to make sure the business doesn't consume our life.
Yes. Yeah, because those the lines get really blurry when your office is the kitchen table and
True that.
your kids are playing while you're working, or you're making dinner and trying to like respond to emails or voice messages or whatever it is, right? Like lines get really blurry. And so you have to really create those like what's the I anchors. So I did a neurolinguistic programming training, and one of the things we learned about was anchors. And so um, I started practicing this thing where, if I'm working at the kitchen table, when I close the laptop and step to the boundary between the kitchen and the living room, I shake off what I was working on, literally like shake it off. And then when I step into the living room, now I'm in mom mode. I'm not in work mode. Work mode is back there, whatever it is. So having those like, you know, I have particular things on my desk that when I see them, I'm reminded, okay, this is focus time, right? This is when I sit down and I'm in work mode. And then when I'm, on the couch with a cozy blanket, now I'm in self-care mode time or whatever it is, like giving yourself those little signals of like, this is the space where I'm wearing this hat. And I don't have to feel guilty about that because I'm present right now in this space because this is my time. This is my space for this thing.
That's
So that's
so
helped me.
important, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but,
Oh, it's okay.
and I just like now I forget what I was gonna say. Goodness.
It's
I was just
okay.
gonna say that, like, that's important. Oh, yeah, and I've just been talking to these entrepreneur moms over again, like, you're probably my 15th interview, and everyone seems to agree that there really isn't a balance. Like, you strive for one, but what you just explained is is a way to try to feel like there's a balance.
Yeah, it's like, we think of balance as like we're on the scales and everything is equal, but really balance is more like, we know at one time we may have to put more energy into this bucket than this bucket. So the scales will be off, but we also know that at some point we're gonna shift the balance, right? And so it's more kind of,
Maybe
I
it's
don't
the
know, like it's a
knowing. The
dance,
knowing
right?
is like the balance. Like, it's not gonna
Yeah,
slap you in the face. You're acknowledging that the scales are going to shift and you have to put things in different buckets, and
yeah,
that's what helps you feel like there's balance instead of being like,
yeah.
"Oh my gosh, where did that just come from? I'm off my rocker now."
Right, and that, like, expecting it to always be like this then sets us up for feeling like a failure or feeling like, "Oh, now I have to scramble to get everything level again," when the reality is if we can say, "Okay, I know that things are going to be unbalanced, and that my goal isn't to have things equal, my goal is to make sure that I'm always kind of rebalancing based on what's important to me, not based on some, like, idea that I have of what life is supposed to look like, It's like
Or the
I'm always gonna
pressure.
be yeah, like I'm always gonna be mom and I'm always gonna be entrepreneur and I'm always gonna be daughter and sister and friend. Like I'm always gonna be playing all of those roles. That's never gonna be balanced. Somebody's always gonna need more. I might need more sometimes. It's more of just acknowledging that balance isn't the way we think it is. It doesn't look the way we think it does.
Yeah. So your business is 7 years old, which is so awesome, a great accomplishment. But unfortunately, was it, when you were 2 years into your business, your husband passed away?
Yeah, so when I was 2 years into coaching, my husband passed away, very unexpectedly, and it kind of threw us into this state of, like, what do I do, right?
Yeah.
We're grieving, and we just moved, and I didn't have a, like, solid source of income. I kind of put my clients on pause after my husband died, so it was kind of figuring out, do I do the responsible quote unquote responsible
That's what
thing.
I was gonna say. Come on.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, and, get the job and the benefits and do that, or do I, like, really and I don't even think it was really a question or an option, but I had to consider it, or do I really, like, go all in on my business and know that I'm building the flexibility and the freedom that's gonna help me to be available for my kids when they need me, which is, like, right now. And maybe down the road, I might want or need to get a 9 to 5 or a part-time job, but in that moment, I knew my kids needed me to be available and present, and I had to do whatever I could to make sure that that was possible.
Were you living in New York still when your husband passed away, or were you in a totally different state?
We so we had just moved from Maryland to New York when my husband passed away. So we were living with my parents, and then it was like now I'm dealing with like we just moved, my kids left the only home they'd ever known, and
Yeah.
now we're also dealing with the loss of my husband. And so it was a lot of just kind of rebuilding and figuring out how to live life on new terms. And thankfully, we did have my family to support us. I mean, you never want a tragedy like this to happen, but the situation in which it happened probably couldn't have been more perfect. If we had still been in Maryland, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
I would have been, I mean, I had friends, but no family down there. I would have been, very isolated and alone. And so I was just really thankful that we were where we were and I had the support that I had. And we've created a really beautiful life here since then, and it's hard to it's hard to say things like that because, we're doing it without someone that we
I
really love,
know.
right?
Yeah.
But the reality is that, things could have gone all sorts of different ways, and they have gone positively more often than not in the last 5 years, and I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah. There's nothing like family. There really
Yeah.
isn't. So you had decided that you didn't wanna go back to the responsible 9 to 5 at that time. What was your mindset or your game plan or your thoughts for how you were going to ramp up your business and make it your sole income at that point?
Yeah, well, I did take a couple of freelance jobs at the time to kind of bolster my income, and we had some benefits from having lost my husband. So I knew that I kind of had a cushion, and then I was able to, because of that, decide, okay, I'm going to hire a mentor who can help me figure this out. I didn't want to spend a lot of time. Um, I
Trial
had
and
learned a lot
error.
of strategies, but I didn't want to spend a lot of time, yeah, in that trial and error phase. And so I, joined a mastermind with a coach who was actually a mom of 5, whose husband was in the military. So she knew what it was like to kind of often be on her own, growing her business, and I just dove right in and continued to like get mentorship and support over the course of 2 or 3 years, and learn what worked for me and what didn't now as a single mom, right? Because I'd learned as a mom
Yeah.
of littles, and then my boys were 4 and 6. They turned 5 and 7 shortly after my husband died, and they were getting older, and I was able to do a little bit more, and that was very helpful. So plus I had my family support, but then of course we got thrown into COVID and like
Oh,
that
I
whole
know.
thing happened. So it's just like
You're like,
there's
"Life
always
just keeps
something.
throwing stuff at me. What the heck?"
Right, there's always something, but I think the biggest thing for me was having that mentorship, um, from different mentors over the course of, like, the last 5 years, and it's just been really helpful to have someone again, like I said about how how much I love that I can be that person for my clients, like having someone who knew what I was dealing with, what my life situation was, and who was like in my business with me, trying to figure out what was going to work and what wasn't.
Yeah. So, balancing motherhood and being an entrepreneur is not always smooth sailing. What do you think has been stressful about managing both roles?
I mean, going back to kind of that boundaries conversation, I think it's hard sometimes to play both roles, knowing that, like, in some stages, my kids are really going to need me in a way that is going to mean I kind of have to, like we said, kind of balance the scales, right? Shift the scales. And so I think that can be difficult because the tendency is to just like drop everything. Like, um, I had a season recently where we were moving, and um, my oldest was dealing with some anxiety and having some school trouble, and all my focus was going on that. And so I was, maintaining my relationship and helping my one-on-one clients, but I wasn't marketing my business. I wasn't launching anything new. I wasn't like growing. So now I'm in that stage of like rebuilding some momentum and getting some new clients in. And so there can be that challenge of, figuring out, okay, what supports do I need to like keep things going, even when life kind of throws you whatever, right? The wrench is thrown, the crap hits the fan, like you
A
just
lemon to make some lemonade.
right. Like all the metaphors, like you have to figure it out. And I think that can be a real challenge, especially when you don't have someone kind of in the background, kind of giving you some perspective and helping you to keep taking action, holding you accountable. I think that can really be a challenge for a mom running a business whose priority is more focused on the family than on hitting some, $1 million goal or something.
What is, speaking as a mom running a business, what is the day in the life like for you as an entrepreneur mom?
Oh, I mean, there's really no consistency as an entrepreneur mom. I think that's the biggest thing I had to like accept, and my clients have to accept, is that you can create a sense of consistency, but like the same with balance, right? Like what's consistent for you is not going to be the same as what's consistent for someone else. So, like in the course of a week, I'll have client calls, I'll create content, I'll do some marketing, I'll send out some emails, I will clean and cook and spend quality time with my kids. I'll walk the dog. I will have some quiet time with coffee and a journal. Maybe I'll throw some yoga in there. Like,
Are your
I'll read a
kids
book.
in public or private school, or do you homeschool them?
So my youngest is in public school. My oldest, I actually just pulled and am homeschooling him now. So I pulled him at the end of last year, and we'll be homeschooling him in September when we start back up.
Okay. Okay, so you're not homeschooling him yet.
We did do like from spring break to the end of the year this past year.
How was that? Because 'Cause I'm thinking about homeschooling my kids. So what was it like for the
Yeah.
first time?
Yeah. I mean, it was an adjustment for both of us. Thankfully, there are a lot of like online programs that can kind of do some of the teaching for you, so you don't have to be the full-time teacher. That was really helpful. I think figuring out kind of a new way of thinking about school was probably the biggest thing that I did from April until June when the kids got out. It was like, okay, what does this really look like? Like, what can it look like? How hands-on will I need to be? How self-motivated is he? Like, just figuring those things out for my kid was really, um it's a big learning curve, I think. If you don't start when they're first going to school, because when you do that, you all kind of figure it out together over the course of time, I think. Um, but for him, it was a lot of like
Yeah.
unlearning the anxiety that school caused, unlearning what a lesson has to look like, right?
Yep.
Like, do I have to do a worksheet? Can I watch a video instead?
I'm totally
Um,
going off tangent here, but I got my 5-year-old this subscription to, like, the Kiwi box. I don't know if you've heard of them,
mhm,
but they have it for a whole bunch of different ages, and I first got it for her, like, when she was 3, and I thought, "Oh my goodness, this would be awesome for a homeschool activity," because each box has a theme, and the one we just got recently was, like, whales and undersea creatures, and I was just thinking that for anyone that's homeschooling, they could, like, use
mhm.
that to expand on a lesson or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, there's so many resources out there now. There's a lot of free resources. There are things you can pay for. The Kiwi boxes have been great. My oldest loves cooking, so he actually got the Yummy Crate a couple of years for Christmas from a family member, and he loved that. And so we've been using cooking activities to work on reading and writing and math and all of those things. And that kind of hands-on learning, I think he really thrives with anyway. So I'm looking forward to kind of exploring. Oh no, we've got the lawnmower coming. I'm looking forward to exploring, more with him in the new school year as he like starts to open up more to kind of what homeschooling can look like.
So, I think I could probably answer this question for you, but I'm going to let you answer it. What do you think the beauty is of being an entrepreneur mom?
Yeah, I mean, uh, I think I probably have already answered this, but I really think it's that freedom and flexibility to be both in a way that feels good to me. I never thought I would be like a stay-at-home mom or a work from home mom. I loved working my job. I loved the work that I was doing, and I had fun with the freelancing. But then once I actually became a mom, and then especially after my husband died, I wanted to be present with them as much as they needed me to be. And now that looks a lot different than it did when they were, 4 and 6. But having that freedom and flexibility to kind of decide what our life is going to look like and to, like you said, kind of shift where the priorities lie depending on the season is like such a blessing.
It is amazing, and if people are sitting on the sideline wondering whether or not they should take the leap into entrepreneurship, you should. It's gonna be
Yeah.
hard, there are going to be hurdles, but the reward is amazing.
Yeah, and you can start where you're at. Like, if you're working a 9 to 5 and you want to grow something else, just start where you are and see what happens. Because I also think that teaches our kids that they can do what they love too, that they can follow their own passions and they can create a life that they love, not that someone else told them they had to like, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to go to school, you have to go to college, you have to get a job, you have to work the job, you have to retire from the job.
Oh,
Like
no, our
that's
kids are gonna break the
right.
mold. They're breaking the mold.
Seriously.
Yep.
Yeah, already. I mean, it's so wild how having kids has just changed how I see the world.
I like have chills right now because you're so right. Oh, I can't believe we've been chatting for 40 minutes. Where does the
I
time
know.
go? It's crazy. We're going to switch on over to our rapid fire 5 and 5. So, my first question
Okay.
is, what does your ideal chill day look like?
Oh, okay. So my patio with coffee and a book, maybe a walk, and then some quality time with the kids, movie night, maybe a bath. That sounds great. um, yeah, like I'm a homebody. I like to just kind of be in a space. I love my patio because it feels like home, but I'm also outside, so I get to like enjoy the breeze and the birds singing and all of that. And I love to read, so I'm always like in a book or listening to an audiobook or something.
Well, that takes us to our next question. And I'm a huge reader. The next question is, what are you currently reading or listening to?
I always have like two or three books going. So let's see. I'm listening to She Means Business by Carrie Green. So I've listened to that before, but I'm re-listening. I am reading a spicy romance novel
Nice.
for fun, and then I'm actually just getting ready to start The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. It's been like on my bookshelf for probably a year now. So I usually have an ebook, a like hold in my hands book, and then an audiobook going all at the same time.
Man, you are one of those ladies that do the multiple ones. I'm just like, okay, I'll do podcasts, shows on audio,
Oh
and I'll
yeah.
read a book. I just can't do multiple.
Yeah, I do love podcasts too. I so before I had kids, I was like always reading. I would listen to audiobooks on my commute. I'd like be reading something, at home or whatever. Then when I had kids, I kind of my reading dropped like off the map. There were a couple years where I don't think I read more than a book for the whole year. And then once my kids got older, I started like listening to audiobooks while I was cleaning or, that sort of thing. And so I don't know. I try not to be reading more than one of the same type of book. Like I don't want to read a romance and listen to a romance and like have a romance in my hands because then I start getting confused. But if I'm like reading a romance and listening to a personal development and then like holding in hand a thriller, right? Like that's a little bit different. I can kind of keep those straight.
I can get with that. What's your favorite app or tool you use as an entrepreneur, a mom, or as in both roles?
Hmm. I mean, there are so many.
Hit me
I would
with
say like
one.
I have the most fun with like Canva. I love to like play with design and stuff, but like I couldn't live without Google Calendar and my notes app. Like those for mom and business, like I'm always in those apps.
Oh yeah. Or if it's not notes app, I'm like texting myself something so I can leave it unread. Oh, I have a message. Oh, good thing I texted myself that. I would have
Right.
forgot.
Yes.
What is the song that you blast the shit out of if entrepreneur mom life is too much for you that day?
Whew, it would probably be like one of Perry's anthems, right? Or lately I've been listening to Taylor Swift's oh gosh, I'm totally losing the name of it.
Is it from her new
The
album?
Reputation album.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no, I've actually gone back because I wasn't a big Taylor Swift fan until pretty recently. And I randomly heard a song off the Reputation album and I was like, why haven't I ever listened to this? So that's what I've been listening to lately.
I feel like that album's a little bit more upbeat than the one she just let out.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of emotions in the new one. I kind of went through a whole like stages of like, okay, okay, I'm feeling not great about this. Okay, I'm really liking this. Oh, wow, this is genius. It was like this whole, it's too emotional. Oh my gosh, like those lyrics, it's like through a whole stage.
Lastly, what is some advice you can give a struggling entrepreneur mom?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say remember that everything happens in seasons. So what's going on now is not going to be happening in 2 days or 2 years, like it will change. And so what feels like a struggle right now will not feel like a struggle in a couple of months or, even a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of hours. So just know that if you can focus on what's working, what's going well, the struggle will kind of work itself out.
Thank you so much, Amy, for dropping such nuggets of wisdom with our listeners
Mhm.
today. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
If people wanted to reach out to you and they had questions, how would they connect with you?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram. It's at Amy Young's Coaching, Amy with an I. And I have a Facebook group for mom entrepreneurs called the Mom Entrepreneur Network. If they wanted to hop in there and get some support and encouragement and network with other moms in the trenches with them.
Yeah, that is so cool. All right. Thank you for coming on. And everyone, I'm going to leave you with a quote like always. And that is, if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, but never the goal. I will see you all next time.
Thank you for joining this episode of Badass Mother Hustler. If you loved this episode as much as we did, and it left you feeling inspired and empowered, give us a quick like and subscribe, and we'll invite you back to our next episode. And be sure to share us on your socials and visit our Instagram, Badass Mother Hustler Podcast. We'll see you next time.